Hey, boys and girls, Doug Giles here. It's Warriors, Rich.
And Wildmen, what's happening, Doug?
Hey, man, we're continuing to talk about good fathers don't raise weak sons. And I would have to throw the girls in there also. Good fathers don't raise weak daughters. And, we're glamming off the Instagram page, the success habits. And this got our attention, Rich, because there's a lot of chum out there in the Instagram world. A lot of it's supercilious, and this had some meat on the bones, man.
That's what
And
I like about talking to you, Doug. You use new words for me like supercilious. It just sounds like
yeah,
super silly. I like that.
yeah, I don't know what it means, but I love every minute of it. So this brother, whoever cobbled this page together, he's got 20 brutal life lessons, and boy, howdy, Rich, how I love brutal life lessons because it's not been given, to the ubiquitous popinjays, the young ones that are proliferating in the United States of liberal acrimony in particular, and it's real. And when you get, our age, ooh, man, are you cutting the fat or what in regards to advice? And I've gotten to a place, Rich, where I'm like, don't listen to me. I dare you, And this, this is what this list entails. And just for a quick overview, we talked about responsibility always comes before freedom. Discipline matters more than motivation, young swabs. And excuses slowly, I said slowly, erode self-respect. And then, I don't know if we touched on this or not, help me. My Prevagen is not kicking in yet this morning. But did we do number 4, where life is unfair and complaining changes nothing?
We did not, because that's one of my favorite topics. Let me say this. When my kids, and Doug, because we've been friends a long time, and I always share with you what's going on with my family and stuff. But when my kids all kind of went wayward at different points, and by the grace of God, they're all serving Jesus now. They're doing great, But I remember my one daughter was mad at me, and she texted my older daughter and said, "Dad is so mean. I don't want to hear anything he has to say." And my oldest daughter, Brooke, said, "Listen, when you get a text from Dad and he's mad, extract the points, the things that he tells you to do, and write those things down and ignore the rest of the text. He's mad because he wants good things for our lives." She said, "Even if you're not getting along with him, no matter what, just take the points. And if you do those things, it will go good." And I think it's interesting because when you listen to our podcast and you listen to these points and how we articulate them, if you will, people might not like us, and they might not like the way we talk about it and address things. That's cool, whatever. I'm sorry you were raised in a weak pansy environment, but if that's the case, then extract everything else. Do the things that we say that are biblical. I had a guy, Doug, leave my church one time. I know that's hard to imagine, but I had a guy leave my church, and he texted me all this garbage, and I texted him back and I said, "If you did the things that I told you to do, would you be a better man of God or a worse man of God?" And that became my standard for when people talk crap to me. I would just ask them, if you do what I say, will it be what the Bible says or what the Bible doesn't say? Will it lead you to living a better life for Jesus or a worse life for Jesus? And you know what? No one's answered that yet. And that's because they're mad, Doug.
Yeah, we had this one chick, and couldn't argue with what I was saying. She's just like, "I don't like the way you're saying it." And it's like, okay, remove my acerbic tongue from the equation. And what is the funky, same thing as you, what's the funky bottom line bass note about what was said? Can you imagine sitting in front of Jonathan Edwards, Rich, great revivalist, according not only to or from the church rather, but from people that are secular. They said that man right there is the smartest man America's ever birthed. We're not talking about the Steve Jobs, just from an academic and a theological standpoint. But here's what's wild about about Edwards. He freaking read his sermons in a kind of a Charlie Brown teacher type way, just sonorous. I mean, just put you in a coma. And yet, when he did Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God, people were clutching on to the back of their chairs, fearing that they're going to drop into hell
Yeah,
that
people were
second.
passing out, right?
Yeah, and so he's not like Steve Furtick, dancing on the stage. He's not Michael Todding around, not wearing a shirt under a sport coat. But here he is, man, this colossal theological revivalist, just bringing the hammer. But the style, Rich, the style would not be appealing today to the little flapping seals who want to be entertained, by the speaker. And yeah, so grow up, people. Man, I can glean from anybody. I can
Yep.
absolutely glean from anybody. And so let's kick this thing into gear. Life's unfair. Complaining changes nothing. That, my beloved younger brethren who've got sons and daughters, that's what you need to tell them. And that this DEI stuff is pure, uncut, unmitigated, can't scrape it off your shoe. Bullcrap. The world does not reward fairness. And we're
Mm,
talking about the real world. And it rewards this thing called competence.
that's
Rich,
right. And that's why
I give
number
you.
4, life is unfair. Complaining changes nothing. Like that right there, that's the ticket. And like you said, if you want fair, if you say, I want what I deserve, don't stand by me when you say it. Because we all deserve to die and go to hell. I'll pass on that. I don't want what I deserve. I'll take mercy. I'll take grace. If you start with that, it should affect how you think about life. You know what? Life sometimes sucks, but sometimes it's awesome. So if you put it all together, it just equals life.
Yeah, C.S.
And
C.S. Lewis said, he goes, if you're looking at the world that it's supposed to be like a carnival, you're going to be disappointed. But if
mm,
you look at the world as a prison, it ain't that bad.
see, it is that's perspective, right? So you know what we need, Doug, is we don't need the world to change so that we can be happier. We need to change so that we can be stronger. We have a different interpretation. We have a different view. We have a different perspective. And when you live a life of faith like that, when you're a man of God and you raise your sons like that, nobody cares about fair. Like if you're still talking about fair, you're poor. If you're talking about fair, nah, you're either entitled and you're gonna be poor, or you're living off somebody else's money. But that's not real. Ecclesiastes 9:11 says the race is not to the swift, and the battle's not to the warriors, but time and chance overtake them all. So you could be the fastest, you could be the strongest, and life is still gonna whoop you. And there's a famous saying in MMA. It says that Father Time is undefeated. At some point, you're gonna age out. You know what I mean? Physically, and that's a reality. Here's
Yeah,
another
and I
great
think,
quote.
again, I think just, go ahead.
You'll love this quote, Doug. Take this and hit this over the fence 645 feet. Complaining is surrender disguised as a speech.
Yeah, and it just makes people look pathetic. Just shut up, man. Get to work. I was watching Tom Brady the other day, and it's like he was talking about how to, get the 7 rings and stuff like that. He's like, I work. Like when I was playing, I worked, I worked, I worked, I worked, I worked. I'm not, going around like some of these guys, doing dope and shacking up with 50 different chicks. Although he did have a very nice bullpen. But again, it's all about competence. It's not fairness. And man, Dad, you need to teach them what Solomon taught us dullards. And he said, if you see a man or a woman who's skilled in his gift, he will not stand before obscure men, but kings. And again, Proverbs, like we talked about a gazillion times from, I think, Proverbs like 9 to 30, it shows the contrast between the righteous and the wicked. And the wicked wants fairness, and the righteous is exceeding in competence and honing their skill set. and being, a productive citizen in the midst of guilt manipulators. And they're the ones that land on their feet, even though, they're going to go through the same BS that the poor little, whiny, entitled, wanting fairness person. If you want sympathy, man, I told our church this past weekend, it's in the dictionary between shit and syphilis, okay? It's not going to be out there. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. What we do care and what we will applaud, and that's why I dig shows like The Voice and American Idol, Lord forgive me, is competence. Just come to the table, okay, young squabs? And whatever you do, knock it out of the park, please, and we'll give you a standing ovation. But if you're over there whining because nobody's paying attention because you came in ninth place, whew, when you get out in the real world, you're going to get chewed on. And that's just reality.
Yep, that's how it goes. So stop complaining, get on with it, and stop and teach your kids to stop complaining and saying the world's not fair. Nobody wants to hear any of that. You're weak if you use that kind of language. Number 5, I love this one.
Yeah, control
Control
your
your
emotions.
emotions or they will control you. Bro.
Yeah, and again, it's and what's weird when you get to our age range is seeing people that have allowed these emotional strongholds to rage through their life, and anger in particular. I mean, you look at I I'm around 60-year-old people that are still raging, just absolutely rageaholics, separate family, ruin relationships, divide churches, do all this stuff, and it's all based upon they can't control their emotions. And I think the anger, the bitterness, all that kind of stuff, man. Going back to Solomon, he said that bitterness, that rage, it'll rot your bones. It'll
Mm,
create diseases in your body, and that vies into what this dude said in point number 5. Uncontrolled emotions start controlling again your physical well-being, you know, and
hmm
your relationships and family and stuff. And I'm not just picking on the anger ragers out there, but what's another emotion that you've seen beset people, way past 50?
Well, jealousy,
Oh my God.
tears, sensitivity, oversensitivity, those type of things. But you have to learn those things. I remember when I told my son, he was about, I don't know, 8 years old, Levi. We were in the car, all of us together, the whole family. And I said, "Hey, stop crying right now." And his mom says, "You can't tell him to not cry." I said, "Do you respect men who cry when they don't get their way?" She goes, "No." I said, "When do you think that happens? Do you think on the 18th birthday a switch gets flipped and then you don't do that?" She goes, "No, I guess not." I said, "Yeah, men teach men how to be men, and it starts right now. Stay out of it." I told my son, "You want to cry? You cry when you worship God. You cry when you tell people you love them. The rest of the time, you cry in your room, in your pillow with the door closed because no one cares and no one wants to hear it." And you know what? You know Levi. Levi is a very sensitive man, very strong person, but he's very emotional. If he tells you what he cares about you, if it's your birthday and he's speaking words of blessing, he'll have a tear because he means it with all of his heart. He really does. You smack him in the face, he won't cry. He's probably going to
Right.
kick you in the nuts and then there's going to be a double leg takedown. I mean, he's not a weak person. So I don't try to make my kids personalities to be like mine, but be disciplined in your emotions. Somebody can respect a man whose emotions are under control, who have decided this is the appropriateness for my emotions. And like say when everything goes crazy, it's an emergency situation or an emotional emergency, right? Everyone looks to the man if it's a biblically led family. And if he's crying, we're effed.
Right.
That's what the kids and the wife thinks. Now you can cry inside and think, "I can't even believe this." Good. Stuff it down and be a champion and find a way to get to Jesus and lead your family with courage. You know what I'm saying? Like emotional mastery is strength. It's not suppression. It's not just the pushing down, it's the getting stronger. So the more times I learn to discipline myself and my emotions, I become stronger. I'm not suppressing, well, this is who I really am. Well, who you are is weak and you need to get stronger. And even the same with anger. I'm very volatile. You know that. Anybody who's ever been with me knows that. When it comes to things about God and the world, and I go crazy. But guess what? You haven't been around me like this, Doug, but you have no reason to not believe me. When I get mad, I am silent and I sit still and I don't move because I'm deciding what's going to happen next. Because where I'm at right now, it's either going to be a word that's going to change somebody's life forever for good or bad, or if it's a situation that requires other things, I'm deciding which way is this going to go. So everything's fine in my life until I get quiet because I'm calm at that point because I want to be under control of the Holy Spirit. You'll see me ranting and raging about points and about Jesus and arguing with people about stuff like that and about even politics or whatever. But you won't see me in a dangerous situation running my mouth because I need to be under control of the Holy Spirit. And so, men, we can't go around, like Doug said, raging. Proverbs says that, 16:32. He who's slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he who rules his spirit than he who captures a city. So the real strength is controlling your emotions, and because we are God-fearing men, submitting that to the Holy Spirit, because there are times that those things are necessary, right? But it's submitted to God.
Yeah, I think a lot of the emotionalism, especially in the charismatic movement, is predominantly based upon, you know, there's no there's no there's no masculine force in the pulpit
Hmm.
or behind the mic during the worship set. Everybody gets flustered. We've made Christianity feelings, nothing more than feelings, and there's not Holy Ghost stoicism that again, by and large, is saddling a lot of the pulpits. You know, again, it's emotionalism. I mean, you look at the worship; it's all geared towards, you know, getting people, you know, to faint or to have some, you know, out of body experience, instead of just stoically drumming into them the holiness of God, the grandeur of the Godhead, and and that, man, I'm telling you, you know, it's the Robbie Williams, let me entertain you, and that's emotionalism. And
Yes.
so you've got all these people, and a lot of dudes know that, and that's why they don't darken the church's door. Like, we started creating songs, me and the McCright brothers, on AI that is devoid of the effeminate emotionalism, and we specifically did that because that stuff makes people flighty, makes them weak, makes them airy fairy. They don't have any kind of Stalin system. They're not moored or tethered to anything that's rock solid. And then when the shit comes, and it's going to come, ladies and gentlemen, then all of a sudden, you know, you've been trained via the church to be flighty instead of to be solid. You know, Jesus said, you know, the storms are going to come on those who build on sand and those who build on rock, but the ones who are rock solid, they're the ones who are going to do the REO Speedwagon and ride that storm out. And so this whole thing of letting your kids just go nuts with emotion, whether it's weeping or rage or whatever the thing is, you know, if you've got a kid or a cat on a leash, you have failed, mom and dad. You have completely failed. I saw this glamorous host, Rich, on Fox News, talking about how she leashes her kids when she takes them out. A frickin' leash, man! I tell you, if my mom had a leash, here's what she would do, and here's what she did. She used that leash like Harrison Ford and the Tomb Raiders, and she whipped us. She whipped us. She gave us a preemptive spanking before we'd go out in public to let us know, man, you act up, and I'm going to garrote you with this thing when we get back home. So, again, we can caterwaul about this forever, but emotional kids, yeah, let them cry if their dog died. How about that?
Right.
Or if their
Sure.
mom and granddad died, or if, they failed a belt test. Maybe one or two tears, one or two.
But don't get carried away.
Oh, no, you're not going to sit there and be some flippin' baby, you
Well,
know?
you were talking about emotionalism, and I was at Promise Keepers when it was in LA Coliseum, and I can't remember, it was one of the huge speakers that they had speaking there, and he said, if no one was speaking and everyone was sitting here and everyone just started cheering, looking at the field, and it got everybody else cheering, and we all just started cheering, he said, that's emotionalism. He said, if you're here watching the game and it's a playoff game and your team's down by 6 and they throw a pass and they catch it in the end zone to win the game with 2 seconds left, and this place goes crazy, that's appropriate. We're cheering for something. That's emotions correctly applied. He said, if someone's preaching and they say something that, and I don't remember his exact words, but something along the lines, and it rattles your soul, and this place starts cheering, that's not emotionalism. That's emotions applied. And so nothing going on the field and we all just whoop each other up, that's emotionalism. And too many people live their life like that. They're just looking for this emotionalism, this emotional high on everything instead of something with substance to be emotional about. That's why we talk about it, Warriors and Wildmen. Go out and live a life that you can be emotional about something, you know?
Yeah, so I got a thing to put across your bow. So last Sunday, we're in Miami and I'm preaching. We're doing a podcast, and dude, I get choked up. I get choked up a couple of times, man. Had to bite my finger. Had to look away from the crowd. I looked at the host. It's like, dude, I'm being such a wuss right now. He goes, no, you believe it. He goes, you believe these things. And my son-in-law Jordan, I was like, man, granddad's a pussy. He goes, you know what? He said, you're a professional. You know what you're doing. You know what you're saying. You know your topics. You're briefed. You know. He said, what I dug about you choking up is like most people that are at your age, your level, whatever. He said it's perfunctory. They can do it drunk on tequila. It can be flawless TED Talk, Tony Robbins. He said it really blessed me to see that this really means something to you. And I was like, okay,
No, that's
I'll take
great.
that. Yeah. I'm not a weeping prophet like Jeremiah, but there's sometimes, man, those freaking emotions, and they leak out, you know.
Well, I have to fight back tears every single time people get saved. And I mean every time. Every single time when I see people getting saved, I have to fight back tears. I don't care about that. I don't apologize for that. That's a spiritual thing, and I feel like it always reminds me of when I got saved.
Yeah, of
So
course.
yeah. So
All right, so
again,
number
that's an
six.
appropriate reason, right? What's number 6?
Yeah, respect is earned through behavior, not demanded by force. Again, going back to, uh, you're not entitled to anything. It's not going to be fair. It's going to be through confidence. Same thing here. Fear creates obedience, not respect. Consistent character builds real authority. And this lesson shapes how a man is treated everywhere. Everybody focuses, Rich, on their accoutrements. How does their hair look? How does their suit look? You know, how does your character look? Who are
Yep.
you, as Os Guinness said, when you're before the audience alone? That's who you are, you know.
You
Because
know,
we
I've
we've learned
I've
we've
hung
learned
out
in the
with a lot
church,
of
Rich.
guys. I've hung out with a lot of guys that are bikers, like 1%er guys. I'm not one of those guys. I'm also not a hang around. I just happen to be friends with a lot of those guys at different times in my life more than others, and they're huge on respect. And but they also give respect. And so one of the things I think is there's this common level of respect that people just owe each other just as people. But beyond that, it needs to be earned. And you can talk to them and say dumb things because you're ignorant. But if it's not intentionally disrespectful, they explain it to you. No, they're not going to explain it to you like your grandfather sitting on your lap. They're going to tell you, hey, we don't say that, and this is why. And it comes with the kind of leaning forward warning type of thing. And but if you're disrespectful to them, they do what they call educate you. That's an ass whooping, right? And but I show respect to all people. I'm a respectful person. If you want more than the average respect, you need to earn it. And too many people are walking around like they deserve. They're like, you know what? The janitor needs to be respected the same as the CEO. Common human decency, agreed. Beyond that, what's the janitor's character? Is he a janitor because he's lazy and won't fulfill his potential? Or is he a guy that's just hustling and trying to take care of his family and doing his best? Agreed. The second guy deserves more than common respect. The first guy just deserves average respect that you give to people. And people want extra respect, I feel like, that they haven't earned. Another thing, and I'm going to say this, and I mean this intentionally, this is not off the cuff, I thought about it. Too many men take everything that offends them as disrespect because they've been allowed to be raised with the little bitch mentality. I felt disrespected. I felt disrespected. I felt disrespected. I felt disrespected. You didn't feel disrespected. You are disrespected. And it's intentional after the second time. You know, you get to decide how you want to live your life. Be respectable. Be respectful and respectable. If you're not those things, you're not getting respect. And if you decide that you get to interpret everything as disrespect so you can be offended, you're weak. Just get used to being weak. You're a weak person. You can't blame that on anybody. That goes back to the last point. The world's not fair. No, you're a bitch. I mean, I'm serious, right? And too many
Yeah.
guys will be like, that's too hard. Oh, only if you want to be successful. Only if you want to be respectable. Only if you want your wife to respect you. Only if you want your friends to respect you. Only if you want people in the community to respect you and your kids to respect you. But other than that, by all means, be whoever you want to be, and you get what you get.
Yeah, one of the things Mary Margaret and I taught Hannah and Regis when they were wee lassies is firm handshake, look people in the eye. If you're around a senior warrior, male or female, uh, even though you're not briefed on, all their accomplishments, if they're older than you and they're in our house, then trust me that there's a reason they're here, and so you, uh, the younger person in this equation, you jump off your ass, you look them in the eye, and you shake their hand like a man. No little, here's my little hand. Hold it like a damsel. And plus they're in jujitsu, so they're
Hmm.
gonna grab it properly and stuff. And you know what, brother? That's biblical. Leviticus
That's right.
19 says when an older person enters the room, guess what, young dumbass? You're supposed to jump up and show deference to the person who, through their character and their behavior and their longevity on this planet, you're to show respect to them. But man, Rich, that's not taught in youth groups anymore.
Nope.
You get some accomplished guy or gal, and they walk into a group of a bunch of Gen Zers, unless they're on Fox News all the time, and then they'll immediately pop up and kiss the ring. Or if they're at TP USA, then all of a sudden, we worship you. And but again, with grandparents, with parents, with friends, it's like you can't break them from their trance of playing with their stupid video games.
Yep, that's right. And they won't even acknowledge you.
You know, yeah. And again, um, I sound like a freaking broken record. This will come back to kick your son or your daughter in the ass, and then they'll be wondering, why life has judo chopped them, and it's because, man, you're not showing traditional values, biblical traditional values, when it comes to being in the presence of accomplishment. You are
Yep.
to take a back seat instead of push yourself forward. My famous, or my favorite rather, Andy's famous painter of all time is Nikolai Fashin. And he said, when you're in the presence of art, take your hat off and show deference. And of course, that applies more importantly, to God, hello, and the accomplished warriors in the body of Christ. The whole point is recognize when you're around something that's badass. Recognize it, you know? You don't have to worship it. We don't worship angels, we don't worship each other. But again, when you're around accomplishment and character and somebody who's been in the trenches, frickin' recognize it, and teach your kids to shut up, to get off their phone and lend an ear. Because I guarantee, man, that there's stuff that cascades down from the 50 plus into, the late teens or even preteens that if they would pay attention, ooh, Rich, they would circumvent a lot of bullcrap in their life,
Yes.
and they wouldn't have to plow through the silliness, and they would immediately raise or rise rather to a place of prominence in whatever field they're pursuing, simply because they're not being a disrespectful jackanape, you know.
Doug, I think that's important what you said too about teaching your kids to get up when people walk into a room and to meet them. I do that. I stand up and shake people's hands when I meet them. And, from meeting my boys and my daughters are the same. We taught them when someone comes into our home, if it's a friend of ours, you're going to get up from where you're at and meet them at the front door, right in the living room, wherever, and you are going to hug them and greet them. If it's somebody that they don't know, you're going to get up and walk over there and shake their hands and tell them it's nice to meet them. If it's a family friend, that's what we do. And you know that because when you met my boys and they met you and hung out with you, they would always shake your hand. And then after that, they're like, bam, sticking to your side, because they love you and they're hunting with
I'll
you.
never forget the first time I walked into the kitchen area at your church in Yuma. Um, when I walked through the door, they don't know me from Adam, man. But just like you said, in unison, whomever was in that room, they weren't sitting back in the couch like they're, J Lo or or Ben Affleck or something. Like, hey, what's up, man? I mean, they're all, boom, shake my hand. My name's, Steve. I'm George, Ringo, and again, that's normative. That was the stuff that has been done, since Moses' time and was instructed in the book of Leviticus. But now it's too inconvenient for the eye postured, gadget addict. And but here's the thing, man. Because I keep saying this because we sound so anachronistic with these values. If you did a carbon 14 test on me, Rich, I would date back to the Jurassic area. But don't do it. Don't do it. Young people, don't do it. Parents, don't teach your kids this stuff. Don't do it. I dare you not to do this stuff. And but my crystal ball, because it's biblically based, it's muy clear that if you don't ensconce these disciplines into your kids, they'll probably vote for AOC in 2028.
Dude. And you know what? It's interesting too. A very practical application of that. There are people in our church, parents, that have taught their kids that when they come to church, before they leave, they need to come find me and they need to find Annie and give us a hug before they leave church. From the time they were little kids. Now, a lot of those kids are in their teens. Our church in April is going to be 25 years old. They're in their teens and they're not even with their parents. They drive to church. And before they leave, they come and find me. And if I'm talking, they don't interrupt me from talking, but they just kind of slide in while I'm talking and hug me and take off just to say, I came and saw that kind of respect. I watched the difference of how those kids are from here to here. It makes a huge difference in their lives. And you see the quality of those kids because their parents are teaching them about respect and about honor. Man, respect. I always say that if you have respect, it'll take you to rooms that you're not qualified to be in and sit at tables that you're not qualified to sit
Yeah.
with those people. I found that true in my own life. I've been at
Yep.
tables surrounded by incredible people that I didn't have any business there except for
Right.
respect and the favor of God got me at that table. And you know what I did? I kept my mouth shut and
Yeah.
honored God and those people and showed respect. And you know what that equals? Getting invited back.
Hello. I got a great story before we close. So when I first started going to South Africa, or going to a conference in Cape Town, it's me. So we were the couple of youngins that was in this august group of apostolic prophetic men. And so when I jumped on the plane in Miami, American Airlines flying over, Captain Cameron Hitchcock piloting the plane, good buddy of mine, and I get hit and I lose my voice, man. Just completely lose my voice. And I can't speak. And so the other guy that was my age, he's a chatterbox. And like he had his he had his hair shaved to where it was a checkerboard. And he was wearing all these funky clothing. And so I did very conservative, because I'm looking at the website. It's like, okay, I see how they roll. So I'm not going to come in there with, frickin' uh, Jim Carrey mask outfit on or anything like that. So he did, I didn't. So we're in these meetings, and you got 60 Bible schools, 40 church plants on 4 different continents. And those are the guys that have done it. They've done it within 12, 15 years. And so I'm sitting there, and do I have ideas? Yeah, I have ideas, but I have laryngitis also, so I can't say anything. And so old Chatterbox, he's just going off. He hadn't built anything. He hadn't done anything. He's got a Bible study in Durban, something like that. And I'm over there just, going like this. And so finally, at the end of the meeting, uh, the leader of the movement, he asked me what I thought, and I sounded like the Godfather. Well, we've got to make certain that in our opposition to abortion, we've got to be gracious to the girls that have had abortions. And so we've got to have a form of justice that's not just us. And then I couldn't get out any other words. And the whole room's like, this is frickin' Yoda. And and so the leader, really glammed onto me. I was like, what are you doing talking to me, man? You got a multi-million-dollar church. I'm sitting in Miami. We got 40 people in the hotel conference room. He said, you're wise. He said, I watched. He said, you said nothing. I was like, Paul, I couldn't speak.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, the point is again, sit down, shut up, and it's just like Jesus said, when you go to a meeting, don't plop yourself down at the front row. Sit at the back. Let somebody else call you up front, lest you get removed from the seat that you put your ass in, and then sent shamefully, to the nosebleeds.
Hey, I did a great leadership teaching on that, and it was titled "Take Your Place or Be Put in Your Place."
Word.
Respect.
Man.
All right.
All right, brother. Good stuff, man. So, what's the Warrior and Wildmen listener to do aside from those last 4 bullet points that we just shot in their direction?
Go to warriorsandwildmen.com. Subscribe. It is free. We'll send you a couple emails a week, let you know what's happening, keep you up to date. If you're getting something good from the podcast, hit the war chest. Your gift is tax deductible when you send your gift. We'll send you the information on that. For those that are doing it, you guys are awesome, man. We pray that you're blessed, multiply in every way. Warriors and Wildmen, out.